academic session for the last 45 minutes, and I think many of you were with us then. So thanks for staying with us here tonight. As a reminder, you'll submit questions. We want you to submit as many questions as you want through the Q&A chat box at the bottom. We'll do our best to get through all of them. And as a reminder, at the top right, you can click gallery view or speaker view if you want to change how it looks to you. And yeah, I'm excited that this is fun for us. As you heard, Jenn Bradley and Gnim catching up. It's really fun to be able to connect virtually with one another at this time when we're not here on campus. But anyways, we know that a lot of people have questions about college process while they're at Mercersburg, while their child's at Mercersburg, and then what does it look like when you've left Mercersburg? How prepared are you for what's next? And so anyways, we really want to put together a webinar for you that highlighted all of those things. And here I'm going to share, let me do this really quickly, sorry. I'm going to show you who you have on here tonight. We've got Mike Conklin, who's the Director of College Counseling, and Jenn Bradley, who's an alum and the Director of the Reunion program. And she actually used to be in the admission office too, so she's worn a lot of hats and can speak about many things. We also have Gnim, who graduated a couple of years ago and is at Muhlenberg. And Addie will be with us soon. I think she's having some technical difficulties, but we're working on it. And then we've got Chioma, who is a current senior. So I'll let them introduce themselves quickly, and then we'll jump right into your questions. And of course, we know that there are some that are top of mind that we'll get to, but please, please send as many as you'd like, and I'll share information afterwards. Jenn, do you want to start? And then Mike, you can, and then students can afterwards.
Sure. Thank you, Anna. So I'm Jenn Bradley. I graduated from Mercersburg in 1999. I actually just celebrated my 20th reunion, which was a blast. We had over 50 classmates back, which was a record for the 20th. And I'm obviously proud of my class for that. But I've worked at the school for 14 years. As Anna mentioned, I was in the admission office for a part of that time. I spent the majority of that time working in our alumni and advancement office. My current role is Director of Reunions, so I coordinate reunions with all classes that are celebrating on a 5-year cycle. What else can I say? I used to live on campus. I now live off campus. But I lived in the dorm for 4 years. I've coached, I was an advisor, and I mostly now spend time working with our alumni. And I think that as you're considering school choice, understanding what your community will be like when you leave school is really important. And I know Gnim will hopefully talk a little bit about what his experience has been so far as an alum. I think that's an important consideration. We have a wonderful alumni community.
Hi all, my name is Mike Conklin. I'm in my 9th year at Mercersburg Academy. I have worn many hats in that time. I've been the head men's lacrosse coach. I have been a dormitory parent, an advisor of the students. I had worked in the admission office as well, and understand how exciting a time of year this is for you. So congratulations to those of you who've been accepted and are joining us. We certainly look forward to and hope to see you in the fall. And of course, my current hat is as Director of College Counseling. I'm in my first year in that role, though not new to the College Counseling office. And I am excited to answer any questions that you have about the college process and about any outcomes related to that process.
Gnim, you wanna go first, and then Chioma and Addie can introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Gnim. Congratulations to all of you for being accepted. I'll give anything to be in your shoes right now to relive my Mercersburg days. I was at Mercersburg for 2 years, and I, played soccer, I wrestled, I, was involved in other aspects And now I'm currently at Muhlenberg College. I'm playing soccer there as well. And I'm looking forward to answer your questions about the whole process, being an alum, but also the athletic side of things, how, the recruiting process and how Mercersburg helped me go to Muhlenberg.
I'm Addie Jenkins. I'm a senior this year at Mercersburg. It's my 4th year at Mercersburg. I'm from Middleburg, Virginia. I have a little brother who also attends Mercersburg, and my dad also went to Mercersburg. Really cool little family thing. I play soccer and lacrosse, and I love everything about Mercersburg, and I wouldn't trade my high school experience for the world.
My name is Chioma Oparaji. I am also a current senior right now. I've been at Mercersburg, but in sport is indoor track. I'm from Houston, Texas, but it says Missouri City. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here and talk about Mercersburg. It is such an amazing experience. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Well, since a lot of people here are probably curious about college counseling, Mike, I'll just throw it to you and ask if you can give us a good overview about your work in the college counseling office, perhaps when students are assigned a college counselor, how many students college counselors are working with, anything else that you think we should hear from high level perspective.
Yeah, so 2 things that I think are most important to highlight. Students are assigned a college counselor in their year of entry. So regardless of whether they start as a 9th, 10th, 11th, or typically as a postgraduate, we assign students in their year of entry, which allows us the opportunity to establish a relationship with that student, to get to know them, to create context and develop a rapport that enables us to better support students, to have the background and the relationship that serves as a foundation for the work that happens when we actually begin the college process in earnest. It's important to note when we're assigning students to a counselor in the 9th and 10th grade, we're not really in the business of working with students on the college process and all that entails. We're really working to cultivate a set of characteristics and skills that will, when the time is right, promote healthy engagement in the college process and a successful transition to college. And that involves some work to address the social emotional development of our students and to think about how it is that they transition into Mercersburg Academy and eventually transition out of Mercersburg Academy. And we're typically doing that work in collaboration with other departments across campus. But we're excited to be actively engaged in that work. And I think our curriculum, our college counseling curriculum, is beginning to gain traction and to become more integrated into the daily life of the school in that way. The other piece that, Anna, you had asked about is how many students we're working with. I think arguably the most important part of our college counseling curriculum is that our senior to counselor ratio is 25-1. At most schools like ours, that's a ratio of 40-1. At many larger schools or public schools, that ratio is sometimes 100-1 or even greater. And having a ratio of 25-1 really allows us to do some intensive work with the students, to get to know them and really think critically about how it is that each student is defining fit and helping them to be really thoughtful and strategic in how it is that they pursue that fit. So those are the 2 things that I think serve as the foundation for obviously what is a very complex and a comprehensive process that for the most part takes place over the course of the 11th and 12th grade.
Here I am starting to talk and I'm muted. Mike, just to piggyback off of that real quickly, what about students who are joining us for a postgraduate year? Can you talk a little bit about your work with those students?
Yeah, what's been most successful for me is to try to connect with those students, honestly, as soon as they commit to enrolling at Mercersburg Academy. That time frame is certainly compressed. And so we're working to get to know those students and working to facilitate this process in a much shorter period of time. And so when students decide that Mercersburg is their home as a postgraduate, typically I will contact that student in an effort to schedule meetings much like this. We'll connect via Skype or FaceTime so that I have an opportunity to get to know that student, to better understand that student's expectations, to better understand that student's parents' expectations through this process, so that we can begin to put the pieces in place over the course of the summer rather than waiting until that student arrives on campus in the fall. Sometimes students will come in with a pretty clear sense of what it is they want out of this process. Sometimes our postgraduates have actually been through this process. So we're working to gather all of that context. So we're really prepared to hit the ground running in September.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
We have plenty of more questions for you, Mike, about the college process, but Nim, I'll ask you one. How do you feel that Mercersburg has continued to support you since graduation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like besides not being on campus, it feels like, the support is just the same as, being at Mercersburg. I have a good example to give. When I was at Mercersburg, I pretty much, my junior year, I was interested in interning in the summer, and because a lot of my peers were getting internships, so I, figured, I have no connections now. I figured I'd talk to Jason Pershovsky, who is the head of the alumni relations. And he asked me what did I want to do. I said, possibly work, in the law field, really. And then he connected me right away with an alum in the city, New York City, who is a lawyer, and pretty much connected there. And this past summer, he invited me this summer to work with him for 2 months, doing an internship, full paid internship. So Mercersburg, is a community with a large professional network that, I feel like I'm able to, just to be in and pretty much just dive in and ask, different people for help, or, just be involved in that way, and also provide guidance and help and advice to other students as well. But the fun part as well, I also play soccer at Muhlenberg, like I said. It's awesome when a group of Mercersburg folks, the faculty, drive a few hours to come see me play in the middle of the night in the rain. That's something that, I just, love. I love seeing Mercersburg folks everywhere I go. And, that support, that relationship is still there and hasn't changed since I left the school.
Thanks, Nim. Jen, do you want to piggyback off of that real quickly? And I'm sure you have tons of examples of your work with students who have just graduated.
Yeah, so as Nim said, our role here in alumni relations is to stay in contact and keep our alumni close and connected with the school, and help you with wherever you may be in your life. So we have a pretty robust engagement plan and communication plan for our students who are in college, helping them go through that phase as they begin to look for their first jobs and first internships. And oftentimes I find that our alums, because of the relationship and because of the level of connectivity in our community, will reach out and think about Mercersburg as a resource for their careers and career counseling. We have lots of regional events. We have over 30 events actually all around the world each and every year. And then we try to, as Nim mentioned, organize some informal events when we can. If we have students who are performing either in athletics or the arts, we try to get that out there and support them whenever possible. But it's really a relationship for life. It's a community that's not going to last just for your 1, 2, 3, or 4 years as a student. It's a community that you'll be a part of for the rest of your life. And I think you can get a lot out of that relationship.
Thanks, Jen. We've gotten a couple questions about test preparation, and I think Mercersburg has a really unique test preparation program for our students with the SAT and ACT. So Mike, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that, and then hopefully Addie and Chioma could chime in about their experience with Mark's tutoring.
Yeah. So we have a relationship with Mark's Education, which is an educational consulting firm out of Bethesda, Maryland. That is a program that the school has committed to at no additional cost to the student, which is an important distinction to make. In collaboration with Mark's Education, we will administer 2 diagnostic tests in the 10th grade year. So students will take the PSAT and they'll take a mock ACT. Mark's Education will score the mock ACT and compare those results to the PSAT score for every student, and then make an informed recommendation about which test is likely to be the most appropriate fit for that particular student. Students certainly have an opportunity to consider different possibilities. If they feel strongly that one test is a better fit than another, they can certainly express that. But typically, students will begin tutoring in the fall term of their 11th grade year, and will be recommended to take not only a particular test, but taking that test on specific dates. So this tutoring program is really structured and designed in a way that prepares students very intentionally for specific tests on specific dates. Yeah, it's been a really productive relationship. We've seen over the course of the last few years, actually in last year's graduating class, our students' ACT scores improved on average by 5 points, their SAT score on average by 130 points through the course of that tutoring program. So, we're seeing noticeable gains and certainly feel good about the investment and the experience that our students are having.
Great, thanks. Girls, do you want to jump in and talk at all about how do those tutoring sessions fit into your schedule during 11th grade?
I guess for me, like the idea of like having to go through like all the standardized testing was a bit daunting at first, but having the tutor help and kind of guide you along the way and give you like kind of the same type of homework assignments that your teachers would give, but like kind of pace you along the way of the standardized testing helped. And it was more of a process where you got it as much as you put in. So if you didn't want to do the homework, it really reflected on you. So I think I like tried my best effort to do as best as I can, because I knew in the end it was a process that would be affecting me in the long run.
Yeah, like Thomas said, it is like traditional homework almost. They do schedule meetings during your free periods. So it's just like another class during the class day. And they would give you homework, and again, it's exactly like put in what you want to get out of it. And yeah, I mean, it did some good things for me, so it was a positive experience.
That's great. Mike, would you mind touching on the percentage of students that you would say got into their top choice college? I know that's something that people are curious about.
Yeah, great question. So I think it's important to provide some context actually first. So for as many students that identify a first choice college, we're really working with students to think about those schools that they have a high level of interest in. So for many students, the distinction between a first choice and a second choice is not nearly as significant as the distinction between a fourth and a fifth choice. So in last year's graduating class, the number of students who were accepted to a school at which they have a high level of interest was approximately 80%. So students are finding a great deal of success. And I think that's a testament to the work that we do to really help students identify the most appropriate fit in terms of the criteria that they consider to be most important to them, but also to their family and their family's needs. And the extent to which we help students kind of contextualize this process and understand the intricacies of this process. So it's a pretty high success rate. Again, students are getting into the schools that they generally feel very good about.
Great, thanks. Jen, we've got some questions about helping students along the way, whether it be connecting them with alumni while they're in MAPS and Springboard, as well as connecting people for internships throughout their time at Mercersburg. If you could speak to those things, that would be great.
Sure. So this is based on the assumption that everybody understands the difference between MAPS and Springboard. That was just covered in the last call?
It was just covered in the last call, but for those of you on the call now who may not have been in the academics panel, MAPS is a program that 14, 15 students do each year, starting in their 11th grade year. So there's a cohort of 11th graders and then a cohort of 12th graders. So that's a 2-year program. And then Springboard is for all seniors who are not in the MAPS program, a 1-year capstone experience. And yeah, Jen, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so I think we work closely with both classes. MAPS, each student has a different topic, so it can be a little bit more in-depth or specific, and oftentimes they're working on a 1 to 2 year thesis type project, and so and sometimes they're very specific, but we work hard to try to match them up with alumni who are experts in the field of that particular area of study, for them to either talk with or actually engage in a mentor-mentee relationship. We often will invite those alums to come to campus for their presentations that happen each year. And then with Springboard, there are set courses each year that are determined by the faculty members. And so there's a topic, an overall topic, and then the students complete a project within each of those areas. For example, this year in the entrepreneurship class, we did a day in Washington, D.C., where we took a group of, I think it was 15 students, to 3 different site visits. We visited with alums. We visited with an alum who works in marketing at the company 2U, which is, until recently, was known as an educational tech startup. They're no longer a startup, but that was very cool for them to go and meet with our alum and learn about the ed tech startup process. And then we took them to a commercial real estate company down in DC, an alum who started that business 25 years ago and was incredibly successful. So they got to learn about what that process was like. And, you know, that's really, I mean, those are a couple of specific examples, but we do that for all the classes. We really try to get them to connect with alumni in those areas of study.
Great, Jen. And I'm sure you find, you know, I know that I've seen students come up to you in the dining hall and talk about, you know, hey, can I connect with an alum who's in this field? I'm sure you facilitate those kinds of conversations all the time. And additionally, you know, could I have an internship? Or, you know, it probably depends on the student and the situation.
Yeah, so actually, I just thought of another story, not necessarily specific to an internship, but Abba Sanka, who's a senior, is in the Parallel Histories Springboard course this year. And the concept of that course is to identify something that's happened in our history, either our country or our world, and then understand the parallel histories of what was happening at our school at that time. And Abba's project is focusing on the racial integration of Mercersburg, which happened in 1964 when we admitted our first Black student, Tom Leslie, who was the class of 1966. Unfortunately, Tom Leslie had passed away, so we can't interview Tom, but Abba's done a remarkable job of connecting with Tom's peers and his classmates and sort of piecing together stories about what it was like for Tom to be the first Black student at Mercersburg and all that was going on in our country and around the desegregation of schools. And Abba throughout this has actually established several close communications and relationships with a couple of Tom's classmates, one of whom ended up writing her, I think, a recommendation for college, because that's how much they were in contact. So some pretty cool connections come out of that. But of course, we are always here to help students, help with internships and connections, and our alumni love that. I mean, we have our alums reach out all the time who say, we love connecting with Mercersburg students.
Thanks, Jen. Nim, I'd love to direct a question to you. What do you think, now that you've been away from Mercersburg for a couple of years, and I know that you have a lot of friends who went to other boarding schools, what do you think sets Mercersburg apart from other schools as it relates to, your experience as a student? And then Chioma and Addie, I'll throw you guys a question after Nim, so you can be on the ready.
For one thing, I think I find myself talking about my boarding school a lot more than they do. That's, I don't know, why, but, I love my experience. And I guess for me, like we said, like Jen said, like you all said, there's a great relationship between the students and the faculty members that don't end. It's for life, like Jen put it, and it is true. I find myself last year talking to my friend who went to Northfield Mount Herman, and we talked about summer, what we're going to do in the summer, internships, and he had a hard time finding an internship. And I said, why don't you contact your alumni person at your high school like I did? It was great help for me. They should do the same. And for him, he didn't really think about doing that because maybe, I don't know why, but maybe because the size of the school, or it wasn't as personal and close like we have at Mercersburg. I find it easy to go to Jen, to go to Shots, any one of you guys, and ask you for any advice or any recommendations, or just a connection, for an internship or a job reference. And I just find that really easy and personable. And yeah, I think the main thing is I talk about Mercersburg a lot more than they talk about their schools.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, shifting back to current students and your experience here right now with the college counseling process, Addie, I'd love for you to tell participants a little bit more about what it has looked like for you in terms of meeting with a counselor, how you squeeze that into your day, what the process has looked like for you. Maybe you can share with people where you're headed next year. So I'll let you go and share whatever you want.
Yeah, so I think this was mentioned, but 9th graders are assigned their college counselor. So when you start at Mercersburg, and it's not to scare 9th graders like, oh, college, but it's really so you get to know your college counselor. And I think that is something that is really important because I have some friends back home whose college counselors don't really know them, but I've developed a relationship with mine, and he really understood where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do with myself in college. And yeah, we would meet during my free periods during the school day. I started with making a list, which is kind of like an area of where I wanted to be, and then narrowed it down with size, major, and sports. I really wanted to play sport, and luckily that happened to work out. I'll be at Roanoke College next year in Virginia playing lacrosse, and something that was really influential for me was the size of the school, and the teacher to student ratio. I think Mr. Titus was very involved with my process, and he got my parents involved, and everyone was very communicative. And it was easy.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Mike, I don't know if you want to jump in and add anything there.
No, I would just underscore that relationship really is so important. Getting to know our students and getting to understand what it is that they want out of this process. And Addie had made a comment about how we communicate with parents and involve parents in this process, which is, of course, hugely important. It's a challenge at a boarding school because we don't often have parents as a captive audience here on campus, but we very much value parent participation. We invite parent participation as students come into this process in a formal way in October of their 11th grade year. We ask them to complete a questionnaire that gives them an opportunity to really express what their expectations are and articulate some of their own priorities and hopes for their child. And then we are as communicative as we can be in providing meeting summaries anytime that we meet with our students, and really just providing regular correspondence from our office as students reach major milestones and progress through this process in a meaningful way.
Great, thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Chioma, I don't know if you want to add anything about your college process and kind of share. You're also in MAPS, and I don't know if you want to talk to people a little bit about what that's looked like, you know, weaving your MAPS process in, or your time with MAPS into your college process.
Yeah, so I, during my process with college counseling, I realized that I really created a great bond with my college counselor. Mr. Conklin is my college counselor. But for my MAPS topic, I decided to look into higher education. So Mr. Conklin was like a key point for that. And also I found out that I had a good time integrating that with my college search, because I was able to go to schools and not only see it from an admission standpoint, but also a point of looking at it from my MAPS research. So seeing that connectedness, it really made a difference for my Mercersburg career, because I was finding out that all these points didn't just have to stop at one point, but it could grow into something else that would help throughout my career, like experience at Mercersburg with college counseling and then MAPS. So it was a great experience going through it.
Great, thank you. Addie, would you mind sharing with the participants a little bit more about how it's been for you to juggle and balance homework and your SAT, ACT preparation?
Sure. So I took the ACT last year. I took it twice. And like Chioma and I mentioned, you do have homework assignments with your preparation. And I happened to have 2 free periods last year. So and they were double, like they were right next to each other. So if I had my tutoring session in one, I would try to bang out some homework in the next rotation. And using free periods additionally to the evening time to do homework is a really big thing that has ended up helping me in the past few years, especially with extracurricular stuff. But it's also nice to space out your work, your ACT prep, SAT prep work, because then you're not just doing it all in one day and not revisiting it again for another week or two. They do give like several sections to practice or study or review in between each session. So it would be helpful to do one night and one the next day during my free period, or like the next 2 days, just to kind of spread it out so it wasn't leaving my mind in the days where I wasn't meeting with them.
Great, thanks, Addie. We had a robust conversation in the previous webinar about our move away from the AP program, but I think it would be wise to bring it up again. And Mike, you can speak to it a little bit as it relates to colleges. And you know, someone just asked the question as well about AP testing and you know, what that will look like this year and then moving forward, and anything you want to share around that, Mike, would be great.
Sure. Well, let me start with the, I guess, technical aspect of that question. AP exams this year are going to look quite different. The College Board has just announced that APs will be administered using a web-based format so that students can take the exam from home. And many of the exams, if not all, will not include multiple choice questions. So it's going to be an entirely different format, delivered at home in actually 45 minutes, which I think is a positive development. So it'll look very different this year than it will in future years. In future years at Mercersburg Academy, while we will not be offering AP courses, we will be administering AP exams for any students that wants to take them, and we will certainly help students who are interested in taking them prepare for those exams. We'll provide for those students who do enroll and are going through the process of course selection, a list of courses that are still designed in a way that will prepare the student to take the AP exam, so they can make informed decisions about whether or not they want to make that choice at the end of the year. In terms of the college process, right, so the less technical aspect of that question, we have heard universally, this has been positively received by all of the colleges and universities that we've spoken to. In fact, in the fall for our Family and Alumni Weekend, we had 3 panelists on campus, and I believe it was the Dean of Enrollment from Johns Hopkins University that said, when we informed him that we were moving beyond the AP, I think he said, it's about time. Really moving beyond the AP is about creating authentic learning experiences that simulate what happens at the college level. I think as college counselors, we'll feel better positioned actually to speak to and counsel and advocate for students based on the originality of the work that they produce in classes that are designed by their teachers and that have the flexibility to appeal to their needs and their desires. So we're really confident in that decision. I think the colleges are equally as excited. And, you know, I always remind myself, having spent 4 years in an admission office at a selective university, the college admission officers see transcripts from thousands of high schools and universities, and every one of those transcripts looks different. So our job is to tell each student's story and to support each student to tell his or her own story. And the transcript is certainly one part of that. So happy to answer any follow-up questions, but that's sort of the, I guess, overall perspective that I have.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I don't know if any of our panelists want to jump in, share anything there. No need to, just wanted to make sure I gave you the opportunity to. But Mike, I would also piggybacking off of that, if you could speak to how you think students attending Mercersburg will be a differentiator when they're applying to college, just what you've seen. And also, I'm sure sitting on the other side in a college admission office, you can kind of wear that hat too. And Mike used to be in the admission office here too, so he's seen a lot of different sides of this.
Yeah, well, I think in speaking from the college perspective, in fact, I'll quote Associate Director of Admission at UPenn. I had an opportunity to sit with just before they closed their campus to visitors, so I was happy to have that conversation. And we were talking about actually that question specifically, and she said, you know, there are a few ways in which Mercersburg Academy students are perhaps at an advantage. One is that it's very clear that our students are known and loved, as she put it. We are able to support students to tell their story, and we're able to contribute to that story in a way that can't happen everywhere. And again, that's in part a product of the fact that we have a 25-to-1 student council ratio and can really afford to take the time to get to know our students over the course of that 4-year experience. And the other piece, of course, is that the transition to college is perhaps easier for some of our students because they've had the experience of being away from home, of being in the boarding environment, navigating the relationship with a roommate. And so they come to campus with a frame of reference, with expectations that I think are more in keeping with the college experience.
Great, thanks, Mike. That's perfect. And lucky you that you were able to have that conversation right before no visitors were allowed on campus.
Right.
Well, I want to be sensitive to our time here. I know we have just about 5 minutes left. And some people have been with us for a while. So I want to give all of our panelists an opportunity to wrap up and share thoughts with our participants here. Just so you have the chance to share any last thoughts. I don't know, Nim, if you want to share anything that's on your mind as these students are preparing to make a decision about where to attend next year, if you can think back to what you were thinking when you were in their shoes.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of this webinar, I'll give anything to be in their shoes right now. You know, for me, you know, when I was looking at, you know, boarding schools, you know, Mercersburg was the last school I even considered. And I actually had my mind set on another school. And, you know, what really got me was, you know, visiting the school, which is a shame because we can't do that now, but really being on campus and, you know, meeting everyone, meeting the faculty, the staff, the teachers, the students, and, you know, not knowing anyone, but feeling like you belong, you know. It is the people, I think, the people that make Mercersburg what it is. And, you know, it's evident for me now. I'm not a member. I'm not a student anymore, but, you know, I still feel loved and I still feel like I'm a part of the community. So, yeah, if you haven't committed yet, please, you know, do yourself a favor and commit to Mercersburg. You won't be wronged or, but, you know, yeah, I'm happy for you all and congratulations again. And I hope you have a good rest of your process.
Thanks, Nim.
Yeah.
Chioma and Addie, I don't know if you want to share anything else, words of wisdom at this point, and then Jen, I'll toss it to you, and you can share the links if you want to tee those up.
Yeah, sure. I'm a Blue Key tour guide at Mercersburg, so I give lots of tours to prospective students, and I always tell them that Mercersburg is such a unique place, and that I said it earlier, I really wouldn't change my experience for anything. And I honestly feel robbed by this coronavirus that I don't get to be at school right now with all my friends and really my family at Mercersburg. But it really becomes a second home. So.
Yeah, picking back on what Nim and Addie said, Mercersburg really does feel like my home. I remember when I just left for freshman year, I was crying because I was like leaving, but then as time went on, I realized that I wasn't leaving like a sort of a place where I felt like I belonged, kind of like how I do feel at home. So having that support system is such a thing that I can't give out for words. It's such a blessing. So yeah.
Well, thanks, Chioma. And, you know, Jen, I'll let you go, and then Mike, I'll give you the floor for some closing words, and you can touch on some last remaining questions that people have that I'll share with you.
So I just want to echo the sentiment of Mercersburg being home. Obviously, it's my home. I've been here for 14 years. I spent 3 years here as a student. Sometimes alumni ask me if I ever left. Yes, I did. I did leave and go to college, but I came back. And as a young person coming back, not knowing how long that was going to be, I've been very, very happy and love that I've been here for 14 years and had an amazing time working at Mercersburg. I would say that as you think about your school choice, one thing that may not be a factor in your decision or maybe be apparent is think about what the alumni community looks like. And there are a couple of ways that you can learn more about the alumni community. One is just if you think about how our school works, 40% of our operating budget comes from philanthropic support each year. And that's a huge number. And I think that's indicative of how our alumni feel. They love this school, they love this experience, and they give back generously each year to make it happen for our current students. We have a lot of notable alumni. So there's a link that I shared there. I shared our school history. There's some great videos there. Our school leadership, we have a wonderful board of regents and some very impressive people doing amazing things out there in this world. So that's just a little bit of the taste of the kind of network and community and family that you'd be joining if you came to Mercersburg. And last but not least, I would highly recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel, Mercersburg 1893, if you haven't already. There's lots of great video content there, lots of good videos about alumni. So if you're interested in learning more about the people in our community, check that out. And there's some good content there. But thank you for thinking of Mercersburg, and we'd love to see you here next year.
Thanks, Jen. All right, Mike, you can take it away.
Sure. What I find that I'm most missing at this time of year is the opportunity to engage in dialogue with our visiting families. And so, I think in closing, what I really want to do is encourage anyone who's interested, anyone who has additional questions, to be in touch. I'm most happy to correspond by email, to speak over the phone. I think that dialogue can be so helpful and so important. And I want to stress that I am eager to have those conversations and eager to provide as much information as students and their parents may want or need regarding the college process at Mercersburg.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I know some people ask specific questions about how transcripts are looked at, and additionally MAP, Springboard. I know Mike will be happy to answer all those individually via email, but I also wanted to share too that we do have up on our virtual Revisit Day website the college placement for the last several years, the number of students who have been accepted to schools and where they're headed. That's in our profile. That's under the resources section on the website. And Mike, I'll let you share. I know we're getting a lot of news too about colleges. Yeah.
So there are quite a few decisions that will be coming this week. We're excited about and anticipate receiving very good news on behalf of many of our students. So my expectation is that we'll have an update to provide early next week regarding the class of 2020, and the early returns have been phenomenal. And I'm really excited to see what happens this week. I think we have good reason to be very optimistic.
Great, thanks. Chioma, did you tell everyone where you're headed next year?
Oh, I'm going to University of Notre Dame.
Congratulations. I know, we're all excited. Well, any last words that you guys want to share? Otherwise, I'll put up your contact information, and I'm sure you'll be happy to have people engage with you through email if they'd like. All right, well, here's everyone's email address and phone number. So please reach out and don't be strangers to them. Again, I just want to thank you so much for spending your evening or morning with us. We are disappointed we couldn't meet you in person here today for what was supposed to be our first Revisit Day, but we're so glad that we're getting to interact with you over Zoom in these strange times where we're all getting used to staring at our computers more and making the most of it. So we will, these are recorded and we'll be posting them in the days ahead. But again, I encourage you to take a look at our virtual Revisit Day website, check out the resources and the links that are provided there. We're still updating the videos from coaches, department chairs, and program directors. Those should be up any time now. And they're really invitations to be in touch with them and just to learn more about those programs. So thanks again. Congratulations to everyone on your acceptance, and hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.